Welcome back to 2K Away.
That was gross.
Well, now I have the better mic and you can hear everything. All of my mouth sounds.
Oh, it's going to be so gross.
Probably. Well, welcome back to 2K Away. I am Paige. This is my sister Peyton.
Hello.
And we are called 2K Away because we're 2,000 miles away from each other. However, it's changed now. Because even though it doesn't really look like we're in the same room, we're in the same room.
Yes.
Surprise!
Yes. So, basically, I moved back to Illinois from Los Angeles. A lot of reasons. And don't worry, I'm fine. It's not like I didn't go through a crisis or anything.
It's nothing bad.
No, it's nothing bad. But we're not changing the name of the podcast, basically, because we talked about it, but we're not going to be in the same location forever. So,
she's not going to be living with me forever.
Fuck you. You love it.
You love me.
Ew. Get out of my camera. But yeah, so basically I'm still gonna do the videos, but the videos, instead of being webcams, they're going to be like this, where one camera is on me and then one camera is on Paige to keep the 2K Away look.
Yes.
So now that that's out of the way, I think that was our only bit of business that we had.
Yeah.
But this is now the second time we've ever recorded in the same room.
But that's why I couldn't record when Kim did, and thank you so much, Kim. Seriously.
Yeah, big shout out to Kim.
Big help with that, because I was on my way out to California.
Yes, so that is why Paige could not join me. She was driving out to Los Angeles. So that is why she could not join me. And again, a big shout out to Kim. She was so nervous. And
fantastic.
I told her, I was like, look, you speak much more eloquently than Paige and I.
Yeah, she's got a nicer voice than me.
She does. Because you're harsh. You are so harsh.
I'm very aggressive with everything.
We've said it before.
Yeah.
Also, if you hear any weird purrs or...
It's me.
Or a meow, it's Paige's cat.
Yeah, he's in it. Can you not decide what you want?
I was popping a lot. It was really harsh. Puss. So we had 3 weeks of spooky, 1 week of unexpected spooky because Paige was heading out, and I was just gonna do something solo, and I was just gonna talk into a mic for an hour about whatever, but
then she felt weird about it.
No, it wasn't even that. It was just I had nothing prepared, and I'm like, well, I feel like the worst podcast host ever. And especially because I had my job done by somebody else. Because she was like, Kim told me, she was like, so anytime that you want me on the podcast, I know what I want to talk about. And she's like, and I've basically done the research. And I was like, all right.
Well, and what's funny was I actually had the Winchester House on my list of things to do. So thanks, Kim.
She beat you to it.
She beat me to it. That's okay.
It's okay. I don't know what I just said. It's fine, though. So, now...
I'm back to my bullshit, because I got a two-parter. It's solved. Ish. It's fine.
I don't like you.
You know what? The dude's put away, so...
He's still alive, right?
Yeah.
Well, let's just get started.
Is. Yeah. So this week and next week, I will be talking about Charles Cullen, a.k.a. the Angel of Death.
There are several angels of death.
Yep. He is death's. So he's the one I'm going to be talking about right now, though. He he was a nurse, so that's why they're called angels of death, because they kill at the hospitals they work at. So
yeah.
he's a real piece of shit.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's also something that's just honestly horrifying.
It's horrifying.
It's
absolutely.
horrifying because when you're in a hospital, you're in such a vulnerable. It's going to be another one of those days.
Words are hard.
You're in such a vulnerable position in a hospital where you're supposed to be being taken care of by nurturing
and getting
people.
Supposed to be getting better.
Yeah.
So what
the thought,
is.
Yeah. So the thought that there are actually people out there that specifically go into the medical field to do this sort of thing. Don't get me wrong. It doesn't happen super often, but it does happen.
Often enough to where there's like a study on it. Again, just like going back to Bobby Joe Stinnet's murder, that happens often enough to where there's a frickin' study of it.
Yeah.
And you don't think it is, but it sure as hell does.
Yeah.
So, but for this guy, I got most of my research from, there's a docuseries on Netflix called Killer Nurses. There's only 4 episodes on there, but each one is a different person. He's the 4th one. I also got a book. It's called The Good Nurse. Oh, words.
I think it's just that this setting is fucking us up.
It's weird, man. I feel like all professional and things, and it's making me nervous.
It's really not professional.
No, it's not. We're sitting on the floor.
We're sitting on the floor in the 3rd bedroom. My coffee table is in front of us.
And we just draped a blanket on it. It's not like a...
Soundproofing, man.
Yeah, so anyway, the book is called The Good Nurse, A True Story of Medicine, Madness, and Murder. It's by Charles Graeber. So Charles wrote about Charles. Kitty.
I'm going to see if he's going to meow into the mic.
He won't, because you're holding him and he's uncomfortable.
I'm sorry. He looks insane. Okay, continue. I'm sorry.
He's so uncomfortable now.
I just held the cat up to the camera.
He wasn't happy about it.
No, he was not.
Nope. All right.
He's fine. Okay, go ahead.
He'll be interrupting at some point, I'm sure. But so we're going to be talking about Charles Cullen. So Charles Cullen was born on February 22nd, 1960 in New Jersey.
Okay, and I'm sorry, what was the book again? Sorry. The cat really distracted me.
Because you don't listen to me.
No.
The Good Nurse, A True Story of Medicine, Madness, and Murder by Charles Graeber.
Why is it called The Good Nurse? He was not a good nurse.
Actually, that's the thing. A lot of people described him as a great nurse.
I'm sure he would... You know what? Maybe he was a great nurse,
That's
but
the thing.
at the end of the day...
There was so many people that vouched for him and said that he was such a good nurse and he was super helpful with everything. He had a fucking agenda, though. That was the thing. So, yeah, we'll be talking about it in 2 episodes. So, he was born February 22nd, 1960 in New Jersey. He was the youngest of 9 brothers and sisters.
Fuck that.
Yeah. But his dad, he was 56. His dad was 56 when Charles was born. His mom was in her late 40s.
Oh, she had... Was that her only geriatric pregnancy? I
don't-
about said presidency.
You know, I don't know if she was a president of anything. I didn't see that.
Okay.
We're gonna
going.
try this again. I don't know, but both of his parents were older when Charles was born. And when he was 7 months old, his dad passed away. I really couldn't find what he died of, but he died. I think it might have been some type of something along the lines of heart failure or something along those lines, I think. But his siblings, I mean, obviously they were all older, and growing up, he just didn't have a happy childhood. They were not, apparently they weren't great people either, but they had boyfriends and girlfriends over all the time. The boyfriends would make fun of him. Charles was bullied as a child. I mean, it was just kind of a breeding ground of a serial killer, to be quite honest. It was just one of those kind of things.
Yeah, and look, this might just be my opinion, but I feel like when you have that many kids, some of them are not getting the attention that they need. Well,
especially that many kids, and then your husband passes away when one of them is an infant, and then you have 9 or 10 kids. That's hard. Really, really hard.
And especially with the 9 children. Again, like, I can't speak from experience, and I'm not
obviously,
I'm not a scientist or a psychologist, but I think at that point, when the mom has so many children to take care of, it's like, who's actually taking on the parent role for this child?
Yeah.
You know,
and it doesn't sound like any of them but mom, though, because his siblings all kind of did their own thing and whatever the hell they wanted. And the boyfriends and girlfriends, they would be there at all hours of the day and night. Sometimes they'd be there when the siblings weren't there. I mean,
like the boyfriends and girlfriends?
Yes. Oh. And so, I mean...
well, I mean, that's not that strange, because our friends and boyfriends and girlfriends came over to the house.
Yeah,
when we were home.
Charles was the brunt of every joke, and he was
like the punching bag.
Pretty much.
Oh,
yep, that was
really
exactly...
sad.
That was kind of exactly what it was. But he was kind of weirdly close to his mom. I never got any further than he just had a strange relationship with his mom. He was super close to her. That's all the further I got of that, because there's not a ton about his childhood other than...
It wasn't a happy childhood?
It wasn't happy. His first suicide attempt was 9 years old. He had this play chemistry set thing, and he swallowed a bunch of chemicals from that. So, a little hospital stint for that.
And that would not be the first time.
Nope.
Or, excuse me, that would not be the last time.
Last time. There you go. Yeah, it would not be the last one. So.
Question.
Yes.
The relationship was it a normal close, or was it like an Ed Gein close?
Just said close. He was super close to his mom. Which could be, I mean, he was just close with his mom. That could be it. I just think he had a very strange attachment to his mom. Because, well, he was wanting that attention from his mom. I think this really started a lot of things for him. I mean, he was begging for attention, essentially, at home. His mom may not have been able to give him as much as he needed, simply because he had 9 other brothers and sisters that were causing havoc, you know? And that had to pull her attention away, possibly, from Charles from time to time. Either way, super attached to his mom, super close to her. So then, when she died, when he was 17, he was a senior in high school, one of his sisters, who was epileptic, they were in a car together. Mom was in the passenger seat, sister wrecked the car, and mom died.
Wait, what age was he?
He was 17.
Oh, okay.
He was a senior. Yeah. So this was kind of his first brush with, like, a very personal death like that. Mm-hmm. And it said that he went to the hospital and he demanded to see her body while he was there. And apparently the hospital told him that she was no longer at the hospital. I mean, he knew at this point that she was deceased, but the hospital said, no, her body's not here anymore. She's already been sent off to, the funeral home, whatever. But somehow he found out they lied to him, and she was actually still there, so he never got to see his mom's body again before the funeral or something. I'm not sure how, but I found that actually in a couple different sources.
That's weird.
Yeah. So this was a huge, huge lie and slap in the face to Charles.
Yeah. That's...
Yeah. Well...
Did your sources say, like, in what state her body was in? Because...
No, it's just a car accident. Don't know.
Oh, because depending on what the body looks like, I
Sure,
would...
you may not want a 17-year-old to see
that, because that can cause some very, very horrific...
Absolutely.
Like, scars.
Regardless, though, they told him she wasn't there.
Yeah, that's awful.
So it was a blatant lie, and that was just a horrible thing for Charles. And I honestly think that this was the beginning of his huge distaste for hospitals. I think this is where it started. So it was right after he found out about this big lie from the hospital. That's when he made his second suicide attempt and had another stay in the hospital a little bit. And he dropped out of high school and at some point became a raging alcoholic, and that carried into adulthood.
Well, it happens.
So he decided that he would join the Navy after he left high school. So in the Navy, he did spend 4 years in the Navy, but he spent a lot of it in a submarine. He found that the Navy was not much different actually from his home life. He kind of fell into the same pattern in that he was the butt of those jokes as well. Oh. People took out crap on him.
Oh, okay.
They called him, like, small, because he's not a big guy. He's kind of...
No, he's kind of Kenny. He's kind of skinny, and he's kind of short, isn't he?
Yeah, he's not real tall. He's not like a built guy. He's on the thin side. So he was constantly being bullied and belittled. And he was continuing his alcoholism into the Navy as well. He'd hide his bottles in whatever he could and go sneak off and, drink his alcohol.
How do you get that on a submarine?
I don't know. He may not have gotten it on the submarine because he wasn't in the submarine the entire time. But he was also the type of alcoholic that would drink the Listerine too.
Oh.
So
okay.
I'm talking bad. Yeah.
I got you.
Real bad. Whatever he could find. So
yikes.
His mental stability really, really showed while in the submarine. Because I never doubt that he had some type of mental health issues. It's just...
Yeah, because, when you try to commit suicide as many times as he did...
The rest of his suicide attempts, though, I'll get into.
Okay.
Because it's a whole thing. And we'll get into that more.
Okay.
So I'm not saying that he doesn't have mental health issues, because he clearly does.
Yeah.
However, it got real bad in the submarine. He purposefully...
I can imagine.
Well, in this little space with all these dudes who... A lot of them make fun of you all the time.
And treat him like shit, yeah.
Yeah. He purposely disobeyed orders, like direct orders. He purposely disobeyed them. He got in all kinds of trouble for that. And there, at one point in time, a lot of his crewmates found him in, like, surgical garb, like the mask, the blue, like,
for
stuff, and, like, gloves.
Reason?
And he was trying to, like... I think if I remember from the book, it said that he was in where some of the missiles were and stuff. Just, like, in there. In, like, surgical stuff. And that's not what he did in the Navy. He was...
Yeah, wasn't he... Yeah, I heard... Wasn't he in, like, a space that was kind of, like, considered classified and he was not supposed to be in there?
Well, yeah, what he did in the submarines was definitely classified. This, however, was not something he was supposed to be doing. Because while in the Navy, even though he became a nurse after the Navy, he wasn't in the medical field at all.
In the Navy.
In the Navy.
Okay.
And they just randomly found him full on surgical crap, rubber gloves, the whole nine, and just
He was playing doctor.
doing weird things. He's just,
You know, actually, this is really off topic. So my old roommate was in the Navy, and he was on a submarine. One of the things that he told me is like I think it's the sonar that you actually like see on the submarine, because you'll see it in movies, but that's not actually the way they look like, because the way it looks is classified. So unless you're actually in the military and on a submarine
how to do that,
and actually know what you're not going to know what it looks like.
Yeah.
I thought that, I was like, really?
My whole life is a lie.
I was like, that's really weird. But also, I never, ever want to be on a submarine. So
no.
I'm not interested enough to be like, I want to go see. I don't care that much.
I would be willing to go on a submarine if it was above water.
No. Still
just
no.
to see what it looks like, but as soon as it touches in and like go, nope, out, I'm done.
No. I would never even step foot in it, even if it was on dry land, because my claustrophobia would be like, you're dying. So I would.
Now see, I'm not so claustrophobic, so I don't have
you're
an
fine.
issue
Me,
with that.
not very long ago, my window would not roll down. My wires apparently got messed up in my door, so my window wouldn't roll down, and I nearly had a panic attack. I was like, not that I wanted to roll it down, but it was the fact that I couldn't that it was freaking me out. Way to go.
Well, just wait until it gets real cold here again and your window freezes and it won't roll down because of that.
I'll make my own sunroof. Just like, Okay. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
A little bit of a tangent.
So, he ended up getting transferred off of the submarine and into something like supply or something along those lines.
Okay.
Something where he couldn't be much of a nuisance, basically, I think is kind of what they were looking at.
It was also probably they were thinking, oh, his mental health isn't the greatest.
Right.
So let's get him off a tiny pill in the ocean where he could be a harm to himself or his fellow soldiers.
Yeah, that could have been some of the thought as well. But he did end up attempting suicide a few different times while in the Navy as well. But he always reported it as soon as he did it. What? So, like, he would... I don't know exactly how he would do it in the Navy, but he would do something and then immediately call into the hospital or just go to the hospital there. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a running theme with him. So he ended up getting a medical discharge, and this was at the beginning of 1984. And it was due to all of the issues that he had been having, plus his alcoholism, because it got to the point where he wasn't hiding it well anymore, obviously.
Yeah.
So he ended up getting a medical discharge from the Navy.
Okay.
So
that was going to be my next question, is what was medical about the discharge? Okay.
all of the things.
Gotcha. Okay.
I mean, just literally all of the things.
Check all of the above.
Yes.
Okay.
So the same month that he was discharged, he enrolled into nursing school.
Okay.
And it was I think it was kind of a thing that just fell into his lap. Somebody just kind of suggested, hey, you should try this. And then he did. So it wasn't in his plans. And I'm not sure what his plans were, but
who knows?
Nursing wasn't. And honestly, he was a pretty good student. He was even voted class president or something along those lines. Like some of his nursing schoolmates were like, oh my gosh, you should run for president. He's like, oh, stop, I shouldn't. I totally shouldn't. And then he did, and then he got class president or something like that. It was, yeah. So he graduated with his nursing degree in 1987. So during his last year in nursing school, he meets a woman named Adrian. And 6 months later, only a week after he graduated from nursing school, they get married. And they lived happily ever after, and that's it. I wish. But that's not the case. So he's 26 at this point in time. He hid his alcoholism from his new wife and his employers.
I don't know how you hide that from your wife.
because what he did, he hid his alcohol in the basement or boiler room, or I heard it called that a couple different ways, wherever they lived. I don't know if it was an apartment or it was an actual house, but he would hide it in the basement, wherever, in his like Navy Foot Locker or something, and he'd lock it, and he would go downstairs and drink alone.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, eventually his wife found out, but
Yeah.
It was kind of one of those things where she went down there, and I don't know if she like caught him drinking or pried the thingy open and found it, or I don't know, something. Either way, she'd eventually find out. So,
Question.
yes.
What level of nurse was he? Do you know?
I think just an RN.
Oh, okay.
I don't think
Still,
he didn't. I mean, yeah,
that's-
he's true blue. He's an RN. He didn't go any like further, like practitioner or anything like that.
But RN is still,
Yeah,
I mean, that's still impressive.
he was.
And I'm
He was
I'm
good at
surprised-
school and all of that. So he got his. He got that degree.
Well, then he must have gotten his GED or something.
Yeah.
To be able to get in there. Okay.
Well, I think you have to have that to get into the military too, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
I'm not the guy you ask for that.
I mean, I'm not either, but I would assume you need at least that.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter in this setting what we're doing now. So
True.
So, anyway, so in the beginning of the marriage, as all marriages, it was, all rainbows and butterflies. It was wonderful. Everything was great. And they're so in love. But then he noticed, his new wife, Adrian, noticed that he wasn't all that she thought him to be.
No.
And, I don't know who would have saw that coming, but throughout the marriage, they ended up having 2 daughters. And I know the daughters' names were changed in the book, so they were 2 girls is what they ended up having. I think they had the first one pretty quickly-ish, within the first couple years, I think. And then, because I don't think their ages were very far apart. So, Adrian also had a little Yorkie when they got together. So, I love Yorkies. But you're going to hate Charles. So, Adrian noticed that Charles seemed to like things when they were all shiny and new, but once the shine wears off, he would lose interest and just become pretty much just complacent and just be.
Yeah.
So everything's all wonderful at first. He was super interested in Adrian when they first got together. They had this whirlwind 6 months, wonderful thing, got married quickly. Then it was just kind of like, all right. Then they had a little girl. Everything's so wonderful and awesome. He was great. And then it just kind of got stale.
Yeah.
Again. Same thing with the dog, even. He loved the dog loved him. It was great. And then he just kind of stopped paying any attention to it.
Oh.
Yep. So his wife grew worried about some of the behavior because he did actually attempt suicide a few times while they were married.
Yeah.
But he also faked attempting suicide.
Oh, come on.
While married. This is my problem with him. I have so many problems with him.
You should have more problems than that.
But the beginning of my problems with him start with
yes,
this.
Yes.
Because he would literally wait
until
he could hear her coming into the room, take a handful of pills,
like Henri,
throw them on the floor, and like fall onto the floor all dramatic and like lay there. And things like this got so frequent that she would just literally walk by him and go continue whatever she was doing in the kitchen or whatever. That's how bad it was. Yeah.
It's time to leave, Adrian.
Seriously. Well,
just go.
And he would wait until he could hear her again and call a funeral home and ask about their prices and what they did and how they did it. And yeah, talking to a funeral home.
Wow.
Yeah. So, yeah, he's just... he wanted her to see, in quotations, and this is a quote from him, he wanted her to see his pain.
Fuck off.
You know what? Then talk to her.
Look, okay. If you are to the point where you feel like committing suicide is your only option, that's very rough. And by God, please call somebody, get some help. But this
isn't that.
This pisses me off beyond.
This isn't that. I know, because there are truly people that feel that way.
Yes.
And essentially, and it's a very serious thing that you need to talk about and figure out what's happening and get the help that you need. This guy, on the other hand, is essentially kind of making a mockery out of it, which is ridiculous, because he's not actually, and I'll talk about this later too, it's not something that it's not that he actually wants to die. He likes it when he gets all of the sympathy and the attention for someone who is trying to do that. That's his whole thing.
So he likes to be
to be the victim. He likes to,
I don't know if victim is the right word.
No,
but
he likes to start the narrative of how he wants you to feel about him.
Got you. Okay.
So he wants to be the one to control how you feel about him.
Jesus.
Oh, we'll talk about him more. I'm just talking about his marriage right now. There was also an incident with their neighbor's dog, and that his wife thinks that he may have killed the neighbor's dog. She can never confirm that. None of that was ever confirmed, but she had her suspicions. And one day while she was working, or she was just gone, maybe getting groceries, something, she wasn't home. And this was, I think it was just their first daughter that they had at this point in time. They had gotten another Yorkie puppy. Mm-hmm. So, and it was kind of one of those things, like, he's like, oh, new puppy, yay. And then all of a sudden he's just like, not interested.
Yeah.
So when she came home, I'm trying to remember how this was, but I don't know if she kind of found the door ajar, or like the front door.
Oh, the front door?
Yeah. Front door, like, kind of open or something. And like Charles was strolling up to the house without his infant daughter. And she's like, dude, what the hell?
Where the fuck is our kid?
Yeah. He goes, oh, I went for a walk. She's like, without your infant. He goes, oh, she's in the house. So she's sleeping. It's fine. She's like, excuse me? You left and the door is open. He goes, that may have just kind of cracked. It was just cracked.
Oh my God.
And then she's like, okay. She checks, sees the kid in there. But she's like, where's the puppy? He goes, I probably ran away. That's all right. The door was, probably pushed the door open a little bit. He probably just ran away.
You think that he killed the dog?
I think he legitimately just let it walk out the door. Because they never found it. They just didn't have that puppy anymore. So.
Wow.
And there was.
I bet he did kill the dog. Well, because with certain.
Yes and no. But, well,
with serial killers, though, some of them start out with this. Killing
he's
animals.
An adult at this point in time. Most of the time they start with that way with
when
their
they're young, yes. But look at serial killers. It's not always the same.
No, I know. And you still may think that way after this too, because Adrienne would say that she'd be upstairs and he'd be down in the basement, and he'd have her Yorkie down there with him, and she'd hear the Yorkie like crying out and stuff like that, and she'd go downstairs and be like, what the hell? And he goes, I'm just trying to train her. Yeah. So he's a real piece of shit. Needless to say, his wife filed for divorce in 1992.
Good.
So, but they were married for 5 years. So they made an agreement that she ended up regretting, because they agreed that Charles would stay in the house with them until he could find a new place of his own. Well, you probably shouldn't do that.
No.
So
no.
She ended up having to call the police because his behavior got stranger and worse, and she was kind of connecting the dots at the hospitals, because obviously some of the stuff got out at the hospitals that he was at. Yes, multiple hospitals.
Yep.
And she was scared that he would do something to her or the kids. Something did happen kind of between her and him. There was a big argument about something, and I don't know if he like grabbed her arm or, you know, something. It wasn't, I don't think it was anything like I don't want to say that he didn't hurt her, because obviously he did in other ways, but I don't think it was a truly physical thing. But she did end up getting an OP, and she filed for full custody of the kids.
Good.
So he finally moved out, and he rented an apartment elsewhere. And it was a basement apartment actually. So that's
appropriate for...
Yeah, it truly is. So that's pretty much everything about his married life, because pretty much after that he would be like trying to see more of his kids, and he'd complain about, you know, Adrian trying to file for full custody and get the kids and stuff, but pretty much
I don't think that he really cared, honestly.
He has said that he doesn't want his kids in a bad light. I think that's been something that he has said. But
what does that mean?
Like, his shit will reflect onto them and put them in a bad light type of thing, because who their dad is.
Well, that's probably why they're not named. And I'm sure Adrian has changed their last names.
Oh, I would hope so.
Yeah.
I would. I absolutely would.
I absolutely would.
Yeah. So backtracking. So he had a nursing job set up by the time that he graduated from nursing school in the burn unit at St. Barnabas Medical Center in Livingston, New Jersey. So burn unit that's no light task. I mean, you get some...
No, it's no picnic.
Wow. You'll get some cases. And honestly, a lot of the book goes into some detail about some of the things that he would end up seeing. And it's
well, I mean,
there's a reason that not many nurses stay on a burn unit for very long, because it takes a toll on you. It's bad.
Yeah.
So he and his wife actually ended up coming home from their honeymoon like a day early so that he could start this nursing job. So he had this set up right after he graduated. They got married a week after. They went on their honeymoon, came back a day early. So it was within his first year at his first hospital as a nurse that Charles would kill his first victim. This victim was an ex-judge who was 72 years old. His cause of death was initially ruled as a severe allergic reaction. What actually happened was Charles overdosed him with insulin. This man was not a diabetic. So what does insulin do? I got some good medical jargon.
Where did he inject it? Do you know?
You're getting a little ahead of me.
Well, if you just speed up.
I'm going to explain about insulin for somebody who doesn't know.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So everyone knows that diabetics sometimes have to have, certain diabetics have to have insulin injections. What happens when someone is injected with insulin? Especially someone who isn't diabetic and doesn't need insulin. So I thought it was best if I just get an exact quote from the Mayo Clinic website explaining what it is. So after you eat, carbohydrates, and this is a quote, after you eat, carbohydrates break down into glucose, a sugar that is the body's primary source of energy. Glucose then enters the bloodstream. The pancreas responds by producing insulin, which allows glucose to enter the body's cells to provide energy. So if someone is overdosed with insulin, then it will cause hypoglycemia, which is very low blood sugar, which if the levels are low enough, the body can no longer function and can lead to a coma or death. And some of the symptoms of hypoglycemia for just, someone who typically suffers from that, they can almost seem like in a drunken state. So that sometimes a diabetic who is low on sugar might be mistaken for a drunk walking down the street because they just need sugar.
Yeah.
And typically, if you get some type of sugar in them, give them some orange juice or something along those lines, it'll perk them back up, and you get real foggy if that happens. So
yeah.
So that was what happened with this ex-judge. He overdosed him with insulin. So he was the first of countless patients that fell victim to the angel of death. So insulin was his drug of choice in the beginning. It was an easy drug to get a hold of. There wasn't, it was super common. You pretty much needed it a lot at a hospital. It's not a narcotic.
And it's not exactly the weirdest thing to have
on
your person.
Yeah, it's not a narcotic, and it doesn't have any regulations, really. I mean, as compared to something like morphine or something like that.
Yeah.
And there were definitely quite a few unusual deaths during his time at St. Barnabas. And then finally in 1991, they found that there were bags of saline. And that's given to, for anybody that doesn't know, it's given to pretty much any and all patients because they just need that to sometimes flush your vein out or, whatever. So, a lot of the saline bags had insulin in them. So They had tiny needle sticks that would go straight into the bags. So he was literally taking vials and syringes full of insulin, sticking it into a saline bag, and filling it full.
Wow.
Yeah. So he was actually their main suspect in these strange deaths because of scheduling and things of that nature.
Yeah.
But when he was questioned, he was immediately defensive. I mean, kind of a problem.
Of course.
If somebody else was questioned, they're nervous and everything like that, but he's like super defensive and like, I don't need to talk to you type of deal. And yeah. So the hospital at the St. Barnabas Hospital did actually go to the authorities about this, but at this point in time, the police said that they didn't have enough evidence to convict anyone or to even start an investigation into this. And they suggested the hospital deal with it internally. So when the hospitals seemed to be kind of getting closer and getting more evidence against him, Charles just left the hospital. He just quit.
Yeah.
And moved on. When he left, the insulin overdoses stopped. And I think nowadays, St. Barnabas is saying that there's no correlation between the two.
I'm sorry? Excuse me?
Yeah. Yep. So nobody wants to get sued. That is
the biggest issue.
That is the theme in this whole
him. Yes.
thing.
Yes.
Yep.
That's so depressing.
Oh, it's awful. It's awful. Yep. So no sooner had he left St. Barnabas, he was hired at Warren Hospital in Phillipsburg, New Jersey, in January of 1992. After his divorce was finalized in 1993, he attempted suicide again, and this time he was hospitalized in a mental health facility. So it was one of those, he took a lot of pills, called the hospital, went there, they sent him to a mental health facility. So one of his fellow co-workers, who was another nurse, she felt sorry for him, and she, treated him well, and exactly how Charles wanted her to treat him. He'd she'd bring him flowers and stuff to the place, and they'd sit and talk and everything. She thought it was nice and blah, blah, blah. So he liked the treatment that he got and how people saw him after a suicide attempt. So, like I said earlier, he liked to be the one to control how people felt about him.
Yeah.
So, well, this nurse friend visited him quite a bit, and she ended up letting him take her on a date, finally, because I guess he'd asked quite a few times. They went, obviously, when he got out of the facility, that's when he went out.
How long did he spend in the mental facility?
Not very long.
He should have stayed.
Yeah. Honestly, he should have.
Yeah.
He should have been in some kind of facility, and unfortunately, once you're seeing people improve. They don't have to stay, you know?
I know.
It's a flawed system, but...
I know. It's really sad about how mental health is treated here.
Yeah. So, after the date, he kind of went on the obsessive end with her. Because I guess she had ordered a brownie for dessert at whatever restaurant they went to. Mm-hmm. And he was like, oh, she's going to be impressed that I took note of that. And I'm going to get her brownies all the time and leave them at her station. And just leave brownies for her.
No.
And leave flowers for her.
No.
And call her. And call her. No. And call her.
No.
And just keep calling her. Yeah. So... and the other thing was, he thought that she was like him. Damaged, suicidal, and all of the
He thought
things.
that she was that?
Yeah, because she said that she's been depressed in her life, and immediately he took it as...
This does not mean the same thing.
Yeah, she's damaged just like him.
No.
They're the same.
No.
Yeah. So...
You are wrong.
She kind of had an on again, off again boyfriend. So she did end up getting back with that boyfriend. And it got to the point where that boyfriend, I guess, picked up the phone or called Charles specifically and was like, dude,
stop.
Leave her alone. She does not want to talk to you.
Yeah.
You know. Well, one night he tried to call her a ton. I guess she had a young son too, like under 10. Okay. And he tried calling her, and she wasn't answering. So she lived like 40 minutes from him, I think. Mm-hmm. So when she didn't answer, he literally drove to her apartment or house, whichever it was. He like circled the block some and tried to see if like her lights were on and stuff, and was looking in her windows from his vehicle at first. And when he like saw a light on and didn't see her or something, he's like, oh no, she probably tried to commit suicide. So I need to go and check on her.
Oh. So
instead of, knocking on the door, and this is late at night too, like late at night. He goes to the door, throws a brick through her window, like the door window, and waits. And like, he doesn't hear any noise from the inside. So he lets himself into her house, goes to her bedroom where she's sleeping.
How does he know where her bedroom has?
He looked through the whole house.
Oh, I was gonna say, has he been there?
No, he goes through her whole house, goes into her bedroom where she's sleeping, watches her sleep a little bit.
No.
And then leaves. So he knows she's okay. So then he leaves. And he doesn't go home. He just waits, not like at the place, not at her place, but like in the area. And in the morning, goes to a payphone basically and calls her. She's freaking out when she answers the phone
because she thinks her house has been broken into,
which it has been. Because it was. So she's like, oh my gosh, I'm sorry, I'm just really freaking out because somebody broke into my home and blah, 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 blah. And his actual quote, I mean, he's trying to, help her. And I'm sorry that I've been a little intense lately, blah, 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 that kind of bullshit he's spouting. Off. And then he says, I was the one that did your house. That is a quote. That he said. I
was the one that did your house?
I was the one that did your house. Wow. So, she was like, okay, and called the police. I mean, she had already called the police, but then she was like, hey, I know who did it. So, then she pressed charges against him, got an OP against him.
Good.
As you would, thank goodness.
Yeah.
And so...
Did she get a security system?
I don't know.
Because I think that's the next step.
Yeah, I definitely would have. But they ended up issuing a warrant for him because now he's got these charges pending. He has this OP, blah, blah, blah. So he ended up finding out that they had a warrant against him.
Breaking and entering, is that a felony or a misdemeanor?
I don't know how it is in New Jersey in the 90s.
Damn.
A lot of laws have changed since then, so I don't know. But, so he thought it would be super dramatic if he was a tragic suicide in jail.
Fuck off.
So he decided to take a bunch of pills, then go to the police and turn himself in so that, while they're questioning him or whatever, it's like a dramatic suicide. That's when he just falls over and yeah. Well, that's not what happened. He just took the bunch of pills, went to the police. They asked him some question, was like, okay, here's your court date. Make sure you make it there. And sent him on his merry way. And they were like, oh, and yeah, don't go to her anymore. So
don't do this anymore.
Sir. So at this point in time, he's starting to feel the effects of all the pills that he took. So in his stupor, he drove off to a payphone somewhere, called like a cousin of his or somebody to take him to the hospital. See, this is what he does. And it pisses me off so bad. Yeah. So he ended up getting charged with stalking, breaking and entering, trespassing, and harassment. Thank goodness.
Good.
So he accepted a plea to harassment and defiant trespassing.
What's the difference between trespassing and defiant?
I don't know, but those were the words, so that's what I wrote down.
Okay.
And defiant trespassing, and the plea was he got a year's worth of probation and a fine. I mean, he didn't have any record whatsoever, so that's all he got. I mean, that's pretty much all you're gonna get for a charge like that, if you're not a repeat offender.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, after he made this plea, of course, it's in a court system, so it's not like immediately. It's a few months down the road. After he got this sentence of the probation, he did the plea, he went home and took a bunch of pills again, and then drove himself to the hospital. This is the pattern that he follows.
I'm shaking my head. I'm sorry that anyone listening can't see me, but I'm shaking my head a lot during this.
Yeah. So at this point in time, he's working at Warren Hospital. This is his second hospital. So, I mean, he went to Warren Hospital with his suicide attempts. So he went into the ER at Warren Hospital where he worked. So, I mean, his coworkers are seeing this, and eventually they end up kind of
oh, and I can
rolling their eyes type of deal.
Yeah, I can guarantee you that he went there on purpose.
He's doing this again type of thing. Well, he does, because he wants to start the narrative of how they see him. He wants to make that. So Warren Hospital took him back as an employee. I mean, he was still employed there.
Wait, after these charges?
Even after all of that, yep. He was still working at Warren Hospital as a nurse.
That's not enough to get fired, though.
But a coworker has an OP against him.
Oh, that's true.
So there's some...
That should not... Oh, yeah. So they should not...
It was still out. It was still active. So they just couldn't work the same shifts or on the same floors. So, yeah. Feel real bad for that nurse.
Or transfer him to another hospital.
Well, yeah, there's that. Oops, sorry, kitty. So anyway, while he definitely killed more people during his time at Warren Hospital, the one that kind of stuck out was an older woman in 1993. So this is very early on, really, whenever he started working at Warren Hospital. Her middle-aged son, he was kind of at her side at all times. As much as he possibly could, he was there with his mom. I don't remember exactly what she was in for.
It wasn't life-threatening, though. Is she the one where it wasn't life-threatening?
No, shit. There's too many to tell. about that.
Okay.
But her in particular, I think she was getting better. So I don't think it was necessarily that the thing wasn't life-threatening. It's just she was on the mend, basically.
Yeah.
So
nothing to be like too terribly concerned about.
Right. So
okay, sorry to anyone who is watching. I don't know why my phone stopped recording, so my bad.
Because your phone's a piece of shit.
Fuck off. Okay.
My phone's newer than yours now.
It's the next model up. Okay, that's cool.
Whatever.
Petty bitch.
Yeah.
Okay, so she was on the mend.
So yeah, so she was getting better. So Charles went into the room at one point and told her son that he needed him to leave so he could administer some of her medicine. When her son got back, he wasn't in the room anymore. Charles wasn't. And she told her son, "He stuck me," is what she told him. So he looked. She had a small red pinprick on her thigh. So he talked to the doctor about it. He's like, "Hey, she said that nurse, the male nurse," because at this point in time, it's in the early 90s, there's not a ton of male nurses.
No.
So he's like, "That guy, she said that he stuck her. And look, she's got this red dot." And the doctor's like, "You know what? That could be a bug bite. I wouldn't worry about it. I think it's fine." Because I don't know if this woman was old enough to where maybe she had a touch of dementia, maybe. I don't know.
Is that what that doctor may have been thinking?
Maybe. That could have been. But either way, he said, "Don't worry about it. It's probably a bug bite." Even though she'd been improving, she died the next day. So
I think that's concern enough to at least inform an administration person. I think that doctor should have at least relayed the message.
Or maybe talk to that nurse.
That too.
Like, "Hey, did you go give her something for some reason?"
Was he her nurse?
I didn't see whether or not he was.
Okay, because I know some of these nurses that'll do that will just go into a random person's room.
He did that sometimes.
He did that sometimes too?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because I know a lot of them will do it, or because not necessarily killing their own patients, but sometimes else's. Yeah. To get heat off of them, I guess.
Mm-hmm. So at Warren Hospital, he actually started using digoxin, which is also called DIG for short.
Yeah.
So digoxin is used to treat heart failure, usually along with other medications. So it's also used to treat certain types of irregular heartbeats, such as chronic atrial fibrillation. So if your heart beats real fast, and obviously it shouldn't, digoxin kind of helps that. So it slows down your heart rate and makes it easier for your heart to pump blood around your body.
And if you have a regular heartbeat and you take that, it's not good.
Correct. So naturally, if you overdose on it, it slows down your heart rate considerably and can cause death. So this is another drug that didn't have the restrictions on it, like narcotics, just like insulin. So he's using these drugs that are not your obvious choice for an overdose. Like,
that one wasn't regulated?
No. Nope.
Well, I guess nitro would be the same way.
It's just like a lot of these types of medicines, they just weren't, especially at the time, they weren't regulated like they are now.
Yeah.
They are now due to this.
Because of shit like this.
But so this patient in question's autopsy didn't check for digoxin levels, so her death was ruled as as natural causes, unfortunately. So that wasn't good enough for her son, though. He fought hard to get her death looked into. He fought really hard.
Good for him.
Charles, he wouldn't let it go. Charles was questioned about her death and the other strange things that happened while on his shift.
Sorry to anybody who's watching us. I'm having some issues with my camera.
So Warren Hospital ended up putting him on an indefinite paid leave. I don't know why he was getting paid, but they put him on an indefinite leave because of sketchy shit, basically. But unfortunately,
Why were they paying him?
I don't know. Why did you bite me?
That doesn't make any sense.
I don't know. So, the man, though, that woman's son, he died in 2001, and he didn't live long enough to see Charles taken into custody.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
heartbreaking.
depressing. Yeah.
Heartbreaking.
But, I mean, I guess in the grand scheme of things, he was finally caught at least.
Yeah.
I mean, it does suck that unfortunately he wasn't here to see it happen, but...
Yeah,
He
but
eventually-
spoiler alert, that was only 2 years before Charles was taken into custody. So he almost made it.
Yeah.
So he left Warren Hospital for good, and he started working at Hunterton Hospital in Flemington, New Jersey. Not for nothing, but he dated a married nurse while he was there. So there's that. But I don't think he ever got, like, the obsessive thing with anybody else like he did with that other woman.
That's weird.
Yeah.
That seems...
Creepy? Gross?
Well, of course.
Weird?
Of course. But it's different if that's kind of
His thing?
his thing. But that came out of nowhere.
I mean, it really kind of did.
That's weird.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was just...
I don't know.
Yeah. I don't get that.
I don't know.
I don't understand that.
Yeah. But, so the weird thing was everyone loved him at first at his jobs. He was helpful. He was a good nurse.
And then you keep pulling back the layers and you... Ugh.
Yeah. Then he gets
Ugh.
real rotten.
Yeah.
Then he'd fall back into the same patterns he did at the other two hospitals. Mm-hmm. He was giving wrong medications, sometimes not giving medications at all, and he killed quite a few patients while he was there as well. Yep. His superiors gave him an ultimatum: do better or get fired. And he quit instead, out of defiance.
Yes.
Yep.
And if anybody's wondering how he keeps getting this job, there was quite a demand for nurses at this time.
There was.
Which is why he kept getting hired places, and some places weren't doing the background checks that they should have been doing.
Well, and sometimes he wasn't putting certain jobs on his resume.
That's true.
Or he'd put some on his resume just for clarification of when he was at the hospital, just for dates.
Yeah.
Some were neutral sources or something, to basically where if they called them, they would just verify, yes, he worked here from this date to this date. That's all we're saying.
Yeah. I mean, there is something at the end of this where that there's obviously like an accountability, do I want to say program now, because of people
Of
such as him.
shitbags like this.
Yes. So I don't exactly know how it works, but it's basically like if you work for a hospital and you do shit like this, like people will know about it.
Oh yeah. So he quit this was 1996 at this point in time.
Yes.
So no sooner had he quit there, he got hired at Morristown Memorial Hospital. This was in New Jersey as well. He did not make a good impression there like he had at the other three hospitals, because they fired him in less than a year due to nurse practicing issues. And it was kind of the same shit. He was careless with medicine. He would give patients medicine that didn't need it. He was bad, basically.
He was incredibly neglectful.
One patient,
besides killing people.
Yeah. Well, talk about neglectful. One patient in particular here, he didn't actually kill with his own hands. He was supposed to give the patient some kind of medication before his surgery the next day. I don't know if it was some kind of something that would coagulate the blood a little bit better so they wouldn't bleed out, or, something. But he didn't give the patient the medicine, and the patient died on the table. I think it was that the patient bled out or something along those lines. They couldn't stop the bleeding.
Oh, so, I mean, it was technically his fault, though.
I mean...
Absolutely his fault.
Yeah, because it was his patient.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was that kind of thing to where it's like, they can't get him for murder on something like that. He didn't kill that patient.
Technically.
No.
Yeah.
You know, so he was just negligent with his duties.
Yeah.
So.
And you can't have that.
Nope.
No.
Cannot.
Especially like because hospitals do get sued so much, especially now, like way more than than used to, but that's literally opening you up for liability.
I mean, that's a wrongful death right there.
Oh, for sure.
Right there.
For sure.
Yeah. So after they fired him, he took a bunch of pills again and called the ambulance.
Jesus.
When he got to the hospital, which I think he went back to Warren Hospital.
Are we keeping a tally of how many times?
Oh, it's ultimately at the end, it's like over 20 times that he attempts.
Yikes.
Throughout his life. So, when he got to the hospital, which was, I think, Warren Hospital, where he had previously worked, I guess the doctor tried to take some of his blood for something. I don't know, some type of test. He freaked out and told him he was not allowed to take his blood. Not, like, totally freaked out.
That's weird.
And then he later tried to press charges against that doctor for trying to, quote-unquote, steal his blood.
That's not how that works.
I don't think so either. Also, it's not the doctor who takes your blood. Doctors don't have to do that because there's these things called phlebotomists. Well, that went nowhere.
Of course.
In case you were wondering. In case you were worried about that, it went exactly nowhere.
I wasn't worried.
So, he ended up getting on at Liberty Nursing and Rehabilitation Center of Allentown, Pennsylvania. Because apparently to go across state lines for your nursing, if you've already been through all of the nursing school, I guess you just have to take some type of class, I guess, something, and basically get a certificate to be able to practice nursing in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same way with EMS. It's the same way with, you just have to challenge their, like, state board.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
So he did. So he was able to practice nursing in Pennsylvania.
Question. Had his nursing license been revoked yet?
No. It never was.
I thought it was at one point. No. I thought maybe it was something else that I was thinking of.
Nope. Was not.
Okay, then
it was because he was.
It must be another angel of death that I'm thinking
possibly.
of. Okay.
Because he never went without work. Like, it's pretty much as soon as he was done at one hospital, he immediately got on at another hospital.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, I mean, they're desperate for nurses at this point in time. So, and with his background, at this point in time, almost 10 years of nursing, you know, I mean, it did say that this nursing home that he got on at, this was the first and only nursing home that he ended up working at. That it was kind of like one of those, you've been a nurse for 10 years. Why are you coming to a nursing home? You know what? We need the help. We're not going to question it. Here you go. Off you go. Type of thing. So residents started dying there at a higher rate than they were before he started. As you can imagine.
Makes sense.
Yep. He ended up getting fired from there for failure to follow drug protocol in 1998. So he was there for a couple years.
Okay. Doesn't shock me.
Yep. So only a couple days after he was fired from there, he found a job at Easton Hospital in Easton, Pennsylvania. So, like, literally a couple days, and he was already working in another hospital. So, more unexplained deaths there, and then he left there. I mean, he wasn't there very long at all. And then he went to Lehigh Valley Hospital in 1999, and he only worked there for 16 months. And as he's blowing through all these hospitals, he's continuing to overdose patients on insulin and digoxin. After he left Lehigh, I don't know if it's Lehigh or Lehigh. I think it's Lehigh, maybe. Lehigh. After he left Lehigh Valley Hospital.
Your guess is as good as mine.
All right. He got hired at St. Luke's Hospital in Fountain Hill. He started...
Pennsylvania still?
I believe so.
Okay. Because I know at one point he goes back to Jersey, right?
He does.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that next episode. So he started...
Oh, yeah. BTW. This is going to be a 2-part.
I said that at the beginning.
Oh, did you? I wasn't listening to you.
Because you don't... She doesn't listen to me.
Yeah, it'll be okay.
So I'm glad you guys listen to me because she doesn't.
Shut up.
So he started creeping on another nurse while he was there at this St. Luke's. It never got anywhere close to the other one, but he was just kind of like being a creep. Mm-hmm. So, but while he was there, he actually started using vicronium bromide, which is a medication used as a part of general anesthesia to provide skeletal muscle relaxation during surgery or mechanical ventilation.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So when he had to do with this, so I mean, other stuff, it's a liquid. You basically just put your syringe in the thingy and then take it, inject. That's not what he could do with this stuff. So it's actually in a powder form when it's not before it gets injected. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's in the little vials, but it's powder. So you have to stick a syringe full of saline in there and, put the saline in there, mix it up, and then take it out and inject it. So I mean,
you have to mix it with saline?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. At least you did at this point in time. It could have changed by now, but that's what it said. That's the research that I saw. So.
All right.
So.
We are not experts.
I'm not a doctor, but I do play one on TV.
I do. Anyway.
So then, of course, you deliver it to the patient in their IV port. So they finally figured out something was fishy because a nurse found that a bunch of medications still in their packaging was thrown away in the sharps bin. So in their storage place.
Explain what a sharps bin is.
Okay, the sharps bin is the thing the small kind of thing you see on the wall of a hospital room that says sharps. It's red. It's got the little thing where they throw the needles into. So
yes,
it's a safe way to toss needles.
You can't just throw needles in the trash can. You have it
no.
It has a specific place where they go. So
yes,
I just wanted you to explain that just in case no one knew what it was called.
Yes, so this was actually the big sharps bin in their not storage, but their place where they keep all the medicine, the storage room with all the medicine in it.
The medicine room?
Anyway, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So a big room with all the medicine. The hospital.
It's a big room. It's got some people. They're called patients.
Yeah, it's got some medicine in there, maybe. I don't know.
Possibly.
So this was the big sharps bin in there. So she went to toss a syringe in there, and instead of hearing like a syringe hit plastic, like the bottom of the thing, or hitting other syringes, it was a different noise.
Yeah.
So she's like, what? So she looks in there because the sharps bin it's locked because you obviously don't want people getting in there. And when you open it up to put a syringe in there, it like cups the syringe, and then when you close it, it tosses it in the thing so that you can't stick your hand in the sharps bin because that's also something you don't want to do. I keep hitting this.
Please stop hitting the mic.
I'm sorry. When she kind of opened it up enough to where she can kind of see in there, she saw boxes in the sharps bin.
Yeah.
And
not where they're supposed to be.
Not where they're supposed to be. Turns out he was throwing away medicine, good medicine, not expired or anything like that. He was tossing them in the sharps bin, not just the trash, because he knew that nobody's going to check there because they just unlock it, toss it. Whoever empties the sharps bin, they just take it away.
Yeah.
Well, this nurse did. So it was kind of Charles's big fuck you to the hospital. Because, he's got some kind of beef with hospitals ever since his mom died.
Yeah.
So it was really funny because in the book it talked about that nurse who figured it out. She brought another nurse in, was like, look at this. Like, what the hell? Oh my gosh. Somebody's throwing... Who's doing this?
Yeah.
So they kind of did their own little investigation to where one of them was constantly watching that room at all times. Yes, and seeing who would go in and out. And this was on like another day after the sharps bin was
after they were
emptied. After it was emptied. So they would just, check and see who's going in and out and who's staying the longest. And then after somebody would come out, they'd kind of hurry up, go in and look in there. Check. And, and turns out Charles spent a little more time than necessary in this place.
Yeah.
And they kind of suspected that it was him. So there was more of an investigation into that because obviously they reported it. And when they zeroed in on him, he ended up literally walking him off of the campus of the hospital and firing him.
Good.
Yeah.
Fucking bastard.
So from St. Luke's, he went to Sacred Heart Hospital in Allentown, Pennsylvania. And he started dating another new nurse there. She was new as well. I think she started right around the same time he did. This was 2002. He was fired from there pretty quickly due to interpersonal conflicts. So what he said was that they fired him because he lied on his application about there was some mix-up on dates. Like, who can remember all the dates of where you've worked? Like, that's why they fired me, basically, is what he's saying.
Fuck off.
So what happened was people at St. Luke's was suspicious of him about patient deaths and obviously the Sharps incident. So they basically called some hospitals nearby and those hospitals recommended that they not hire him, which is why he wasn't at St. Luke's for very long, or at Sacred Heart for very long.
Okay.
So Sacred Heart's solution was interpersonal conflicts. That's what they said they were firing him.
So they didn't do the background check until after they hired him, is what you're telling me.
Kind of seemed that way.
Yeah. That's not how
it works.
It works.
Yeah. So, his new girlfriend felt sorry for him, so she let him move in with her.
No.
After only dating for a few months.
Nope. No.
All while still killing patients at each hospital that he worked at. And I'm going to leave it at late 2002. He started at Somerset Medical Center back in New Jersey. And that's the beginning of the end of Charles Cullen.
Good.
So that's where I'm going to leave it for part 1.
Alright.
So if you want some really, really juicy stuff, part 2 is going to be full of that. Because we're going to meet a badass other nurse who becomes integral in... Words are hard. Very important.
There we go.
In the stop of Charles Cullen. So, have to listen next week for the end of that.
Sorry about all my camera issues.
We don't need to look at her. It's fine.
So if my part of the screen is ever completely dark, so forever on just you, we know why. It's because my shit stopped working. My camera was like, ew.
Your camera just doesn't understand that we are actually the prettiest pigs in the pig pen.
It doesn't appreciate my swine beauty. No. My beauty line coming 2022.
2022, because she's got to get her shit together before that.
Because I've never had my shit together for anything. I am not that kind of guy. Don't chew on the fucking cords, cat.
He will.
So he just put his mouth over this cord. Stop it. Stop. I see your tail twitching. You son of a bitch. No. Could you imagine if I had a makeup line and it would be all brown and pink for pigs?
You could throw some black in there.
Of course, because there are some black and pink piggies.
I guess flesh colored.
Yes.
Yeah.
So my makeup line.
So if you want updates on when that's coming out, you can follow us on Facebook at 2K Away. Or on Instagram at 2K Away Podcast. You can write us a Gmail about ordering.
If you'd like to order my pig makeup palette, you can send me an email at 2kawaypodcast@gmail.com. I'm just kidding. I don't have a makeup line. It would be really fucking funny if I made one.
So we're gonna just say bye because this is getting out of hand.
Oh, we do have a YouTube channel.
Oh yeah, that too.
Yeah, we have a YouTube channel. It's 2K Way Podcast. Stop fucking with the cords, cat.
It's his specialty. So anyway,
the cat cannot be trusted.
We'll see you next week.
Yes. Bye.
Bye.